Are you silently suffering from toxic relationships? Does your confidence mysteriously evaporate around specific people in your life? If you've answered yes, you're experiencing a common human struggle, one that ancient wisdom has powerful solutions for. In every corner of our lives, our families, workplaces, social gatherings, we encounter individuals whose presence leaves us drained, doubtful, and diminished. Yet many of us remain trapped in these harmful dynamics, bound by fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of being misunderstood, fear of loneliness. This comprehensive guide explores how ancient Stoic philosophy, not as theoretical abstractions but as practical, applicable wisdom, offers a powerful framework for protecting your emotional well-being while navigating the challenging terrain of difficult relationships. The Stoics, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and lesser-known figures such as Musonius Rufus and Heracles, developed sophisticated approaches to human relationships that remain remarkably relevant today. Their teachings weren't meant for ivory towers, but for the messy reality of human interactions. For the Stoics, the ultimate goal wasn't achieving perfect relationships, which they recognized as impossible, but maintaining internal equilibrium regardless of external circumstances. This principle serves as the foundation for every strategy we'll explore: the hidden mechanics of toxic dynamics. 1. The invisible chains of misplaced loyalty. One of the most profound insights from Heracles, a 2nd century Stoic philosopher, concerns our relationship hierarchies. Heracles taught about concentric circles of concern, with ourselves at the center, followed by immediate family, extended family, community, and humanity at large. Yet his teachings also contained a subtle warning: proximity doesn't automatically confer positive value. Many remain trapped in toxic relationships precisely because they confuse familiarity with virtue. The person who has been in your life for decades can be just as harmful, perhaps more so than a recent acquaintance. Longevity of relationship isn't equivalent to quality of relationship. Not all bonds nurture, some constrain, as a modern Stoic might put it. Heracles' teachings encourage us to evaluate relationships not by their history or societal expectations, but by their actual impact on our character and well-being. How might this look in practice? Ask yourself, does this relationship bring out your best qualities or your worst? Do you feel energized after interactions or depleted? Can you express yourself authentically, or do you feel compelled to wear a mask? These questions help distinguish between bonds that nurture and those that merely bind. 2. The savior complex trap. Musonius Rufus, teacher to Epictetus, and a pragmatic Stoic focused on applied philosophy, offered profound insights about the limits of our responsibility toward others. While rarely quoted compared to more famous Stoic philosophers, his guidance on interpersonal dynamics is invaluable. Rufus understood a psychological trap many of us fall into: the compulsion to fix or save those who demonstrate toxic behaviors. This instinct, while seemingly compassionate, often leads to mutual suffering. Consider this Stoic principle: you cannot heal wounds that someone refuses to acknowledge. Every attempt to rescue an individual committed to destructive patterns only entangles you deeper in their chaos. This doesn't mean abandoning compassion. Rather, it means practicing what Rufus might call discerning compassion, offering support to those ready to receive it while maintaining healthy distance from those who would pull you into their maelstrom. The practical wisdom here is straightforward. Offer assistance with both hands open, but keep your feet firmly planted. Your stability isn't a negotiable asset, even in service to others. When facing someone who consistently rejects responsibility for their well-being, consider, am I truly helping, or am I enabling destructive patterns? Is my presence in this situation facilitating growth, or merely prolonging a painful status quo? 3. The insidious power of self-doubt. Epictetus, who experienced life as both slave and revered teacher, understood power dynamics intimately. His teachings emphasize the sovereignty of our judgment, our ability to evaluate situations clearly and respond appropriately. Toxic individuals intuitively target this faculty. By making you question your perceptions, decisions, and self-worth, they undermine your most powerful defense against manipulation: clear judgment. Self-doubt is the fertile soil where manipulation takes root, a contemporary Stoic might observe. When you constantly second-guess yourself, you create openings for others to impose their narrative and desires. Toxic people thrive in environments of ambiguity and confusion. They engineer situations where you're never quite certain what happened, who was responsible, or even what you truly experienced. This mental fog provides the perfect conditions for their influence to strengthen. The Stoic practice of examining our impressions, carefully distinguishing between objective facts and subjective opinions, provides powerful protection against this manipulation. By learning to trust your perceptions and honor your boundaries, you reclaim authority over your mental landscape. Question the source of your hesitation when protecting your peace. Fear masquerading as politeness remains fear. The paralysis you experience when attempting to establish boundaries isn't respect. It's the result of conditioning by individuals who benefit from your uncertainty. 4. The power of deliberate absence. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome who practiced Stoicism while governing an empire, frequently contemplated the strategic value of withdrawal, not as capitulation, but as preservation of valuable resources for worthier endeavors. In the context of toxic relationships, sometimes physical or emotional distance isn't merely an option, it's a necessity. Withdrawal in such circumstances isn't punishment or passive aggression, it's fundamental self-care. Strategic retreat has been taught by every wisdom tradition, a Stoic teacher might note. When an environment consistently undermines your well-being, removing yourself is emotional hygiene, not cowardice. This deliberate absence differs fundamentally from the silent treatment, a manipulative tactic often employed by toxic individuals. While they weaponize absence to punish, your Stoic withdrawal serves solely to preserve your integrity and peace. In situations where complete physical separation isn't possible, such as with family members or colleagues, you can practice what modern psychological approaches call emotional detachment. You maintain necessary physical presence while creating internal boundaries that prevent their negativity from penetrating your emotional core. This absence need not be absolute or permanent. It might mean reducing contact frequency, changing interaction contexts, or implementing emotional quarantine periods after challenging encounters. The crucial element, as Marcus Aurelius would emphasize, is that this withdrawal must be strategic and intentional, not reactive or designed to provoke a response from the other person. 5. The boundary of unconditional respect. Seneca, who experienced both immense privilege and harsh exile, wrote extensively about human connections in his letters to Lucilius. His philosophy makes clear that authentic relationships require mutual respect as their foundation. When someone consistently disregards your boundaries, they're revealing something profound about their intentions. They aren't seeking connection, they're pursuing control. Those who cannot accept your no have no genuine interest in your yes, a modern Stoic interpretation might suggest. If your boundaries provoke disproportionate reactions, it's because they represent something threatening to the toxic person: your autonomy. One revealing indicator of relationship toxicity is precisely how individuals respond to your limits. Healthy people might experience initial disappointment when declined, but respect your decision without manipulation. Toxic people respond with anger, guilt induction, veiled threats, or performances of victimhood. Seneca would likely observe that true freedom begins with the ability to decline without guilt. The Stoics practiced what contemporary psychology terms healthy boundary setting, not from hostility, but from profound self-respect. When establishing clear limits, I won't tolerate being spoken to disrespectfully. I cannot lend you money again. I won't attend that event. Pay close attention to the response. Disproportionate reactions reveal that your autonomy threatens their sense of entitlement to your compliance. Remember that effective boundaries require minimal explanation. the Stoics valued clarity and brevity in communication. A simple, calm no, without elaborate justification, communicates your position with dignity while minimizing opportunities for manipulation. 6. The eloquence of strategic silence. Hierocles wrote about what might be translated as the inviolable core of the soul, that essence of self that remains untouched regardless of external circumstances. This concept reflects a central Stoic principle. While we cannot control others' actions, we maintain absolute authority over our responses. When facing provocations, sometimes the most powerful statement is no statement at all. Your composed posture, steady gaze, and calm departure communicate more effectively than heated words ever could. In a world of reactivity, deliberate calm becomes revolutionary, a contemporary Stoic might observe. When toxic individuals attempt to provoke you, they anticipate either defensive argumentation, which they'll label as aggression, or emotional collapse, which reinforces their sense of power. By offering neither, you disrupt their familiar script. This strategic silence differs fundamentally from resentful or passive-aggressive non-communication. Its purpose isn't to punish, but to preserve your tranquility. It communicates clearly. I've evaluated these words and found them unworthy of disturbing my peace. Cultivating this capacity requires significant self-discipline. Our instinctive response to perceived attacks is immediate defense or counterattack. With practice, however, you develop discernment between provocations that merit response and those best met with dignified silence. When you achieve this level of equanimity in the face of provocation, you experience a freedom that no toxic interaction can compromise. 7. Your dignity as inviolable fortress. Musonius Rufus emphasized that external domination becomes impossible without internal surrender. His teaching suggests that our dignity remains ours alone to uphold or relinquish. In practical terms, this means recognizing that while others may direct hurtful words or actions toward you, these only possess the meaning and power you assign them. The toxic person may launch criticisms, insults, or negative judgments, but these only impact you to the extent you accept them as truth. Treat your integrity as sacred ground, a modern Stoic might advise. Those who cannot approach with respect have not earned the right to enter. This metaphor perfectly captures the Stoic perspective on self-dignity. Your inner self deserves reverence, and only those who demonstrate respect deserve access to your vulnerable truths. This principle guides whom you allow into your confidence. Not everyone deserves knowledge of your deepest hopes, fears, and truths. Reserving these intimate aspects of yourself for those who have proven worthy is not coldness, it's discernment. When you permit toxic individuals' assessments to define your worth, you voluntarily surrender the keys to your inner citadel. Musonius Rufus would remind you that no one can make you feel inferior without your participation in that judgment. This fortress mentality doesn't advocate isolation. The Stoics deeply valued authentic human connections. However, they understood that genuine connection only flourishes when all parties maintain their fundamental dignity. 8. The power of quiet firmness. Marcus Aurelius, who held the most powerful position in the ancient world, understood profoundly that authentic authority requires no theatrical display. Though he commanded legions, his private writings reveal someone who valued quiet conviction over domineering force. In our contemporary context, where volume often masquerades as confidence and dramatic gestures as determination, this teaching offers revolutionary perspective. Genuine strength manifests not in forceful assertions, but in unwavering consistency. The world expects spectacle and performance, a Stoic teacher might note. True authority rests in consistent action that requires no audience. This means practicing what might be called minimalist boundary enforcement, establishing limits once without repeated warnings or explanations, and following through with calm certainty. This quality proves especially valuable when dealing with toxic individuals who seek to provoke disproportionate reactions. When they expect emotional outbursts, but encounter imperturbable calm, they lose their leverage. In practice, This means maintaining neutral expressions when provoked, speaking in measured tones when others escalate, and implementing consequences without dramatic announcements. The contrast between your composure and their chaos creates its own powerful message. Marcus Aurelius understood that true authority doesn't derive from dominating others, but from mastering oneself. This lesson provides perhaps the most valuable approach to toxic relationships. Your strength requires no external validation to be real. 9. Non-contamination. Overconversion. Epictetus, having experienced profound powerlessness as a slave before becoming a philosopher, possessed unique insight into the dynamics of control. His core teaching, distinguishing between what we can and cannot influence, applies perfectly to toxic relationships. The deepest challenge when dealing with difficult people isn't improving their behavior, it's preventing their toxicity from altering your character. Extended exposure to toxic individuals creates genuine risk of emotional contagion, gradually adopting their tactics, viewing the world through their cynical lens, or hardening your heart as self-protection. Each compromise of your principles contaminates your character, a Stoic might warn. Heracles taught that peace isn't merely absence of conflict, but presence of centeredness. The essential practice becomes not fighting external battles, but maintaining internal coherence. This requires vigilant self-observation. Are you becoming more suspicious, manipulative, or bitter through this relationship? Do you find yourself employing tactics you once condemned? If so, reassess not just the relationship, but your own ethical trajectory. This represents perhaps the most profound Stoic wisdom for navigating toxic relationships. Your goal isn't reformation, punishment, or revenge. It's preserving your moral integrity and inner tranquility regardless of others' choices. When you shift focus from changing others to maintaining your own character, you discover freedom that no toxic relationship can diminish. This reorientation, from external reform to internal preservation, embodies the essence of Stoic relationship wisdom. Practical implementation of Stoic relationship principles. The Stoics didn't offer techniques for manipulating others or winning interpersonal conflicts. Instead, they provided something far more valuable: the ability to maintain equilibrium amid relational turbulence. Toxic people will always exist. Some will remain in proximity due to circumstances we cannot easily change: family ties, professional relationships, community connections. What we can transform is how we engage with them and, more crucially, how we relate to ourselves in their presence. The Stoic paradox of toxic relationships emerges here. When you abandon efforts to change others and focus on preserving your integrity, you often catalyze the very changes you initially sought. Not because others necessarily improve, but because your transformed stance creates entirely different dynamics. Some toxic individuals will distance themselves when manipulation becomes ineffective. Others might, witnessing your unshakable serenity, question their own patterns. Still, others will remain unchanged, but will no longer possess the power to disturb your peace. Consider this essential Stoic wisdom. You cannot command the winds, but you can adjust your sails. Toxic people resemble storms on life's ocean, impossible to entirely avoid. But with Stoic principles, you can navigate even the most turbulent interpersonal waters without losing your course. The ultimate Stoic approach to toxic relationships requires neither confrontation nor escape. It demands only that you remain intact, maintaining your values, boundaries, and serenity regardless of external pressures. Implementing Stoic wisdom in modern relationships. Let's explore how these ancient principles translate into practical modern application. 1. Evaluate relationships by impact, not history. Don't stay in harmful relationships simply because they're long-standing. Ask, does this relationship consistently bring out my best or worst qualities? 2. Establish clear, non-negotiable boundaries. Communicate limits calmly once, without extensive justification, and maintain them consistently. 3. Practice strategic withdrawal when necessary. When interactions consistently undermine your well-being, Create physical or emotional distance without guilt or explanation. 4. Cultivate discerning silence. Not every provocation merits response. Develop the discipline to distinguish between comments that deserve addressing and those best met with dignified silence. 5. Monitor for character contamination. Regularly examine whether toxic dynamics are affecting your own behavior. Are you adopting manipulative tactics or becoming cynical? This signals need for reassessment. 6. Focus on internal rather than external change. Redirect energy from changing others to maintaining your own integrity and peace. 7. Distinguish between helping and enabling. Offer support to those ready to grow, but recognize when helping merely prolongs destructive patterns. 8. Trust your perceptions. Practice distinguishing between facts and opinions to counter gaslighting and manipulation. 9. Protect your dignity as non-negotiable. Treat your self-respect as sacred territory and only grant intimate access to those who approach with respect. 10. Embody quiet, consistent strength. Demonstrate authority through unwavering consistency rather than emotional displays or threats. The ancients understood something profound about human relationships that we often forget. True freedom doesn't require controlling others or environments. It demands mastery of ourselves. When faced with toxic individuals, remember that you don't need dramatic confrontations or complete withdrawal. You need only maintain your center while they orbit chaotically around you. As you implement these Stoic principles, notice how your relationship with fear transforms. What once felt threatening, setting boundaries, maintaining silence, creating distance, gradually becomes empowering. This transformation represents the essence of Stoic freedom. Not absence of challenge, but presence of inner strength. Which of these Stoic principles resonates most with your current situation? Perhaps you need to establish clearer boundaries with a manipulative colleague. Maybe you need to practice strategic silence with a provocative family member. Or possibly you've noticed yourself adopting toxic traits from a difficult relationship and need to recenter your values. Whatever your circumstance, remember the ultimate Stoic truth about difficult relationships. They test not just your patience, but your character. Each challenging interaction offers opportunity, not necessarily to change others, but to strengthen your own virtue, clarity, and inner peace. The path of Stoic wisdom doesn't promise freedom from difficult people. It offers something far more valuable: freedom from being emotionally controlled by them. And in that freedom lies authentic power, the power to remain whole in a fragmented world. Share your comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications to receive more practical philosophy content that will transform your life. Like this video if you found value.